Have you ever noticed how strange it is that the very things we hope will change our life can feel almost exactly like our biggest mistakes? I found myself thinking about that the other day. Not because I've discovered something new, but because I remembered what it felt like when I was standing at the beginning of this journey. And it's funny how quickly we forget. We look at where we are right now and we imagine, and it feels like we've always been this way, but it isn't. I can still see it. I still remember. I was sitting at my computer. The video was finished. My finger was resting on the publish button, and I couldn't press it. Not because the video was not ready, but because I wasn't. It didn't seem like it should have been that difficult. After all, nobody was forcing me. Nobody was judging me. Nothing terrible was going to happen. And yet, every time my finger moved towards that button, my heart would start racing. My stomach would tighten. And before I'd even clicked anything, my mind had already begun talking me out of it. I would hear myself thinking, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you're too old to be starting something like this. Maybe people would wonder, who do you think you are? Maybe you're out of your league. The strange thing was, those thoughts felt incredibly convincing. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't irrational, it just felt sensible, almost responsible. And looking back, I can see why I believed that. Because if something felt that uncomfortable, the logical thing was to wait until I felt more comfortable. And because that seemed logical, I waited. I told myself I was waiting to become more confident, more certain. I told myself I needed a little more time, maybe another course, maybe better equipment, maybe better words. Maybe after I learned just a little bit more, I'd finally feel ready. But readiness was never the problem, and it never seemed to arrive. Instead, weeks became months, and while I was waiting, other people kept moving. I'd watch somebody upload another video. Someone else would start a business. Someone would write the book they've been talking about. And I'd catch myself wondering, what do they know that I don't? I honestly thought they knew something more. They had some secret. That maybe their confidence was there and then the action came second. In fact, looking back now, that's not how it works at all. I've come to realize almost everyone feels far more afraid than they let us see. Maybe it was never about confidence that moved them forward. But before I go any further, if you're listening to this and thinking, that's exactly where I am, I created a free guide, a free workbook for you, designed to help you rediscover your purpose, reclaim your confidence, and begin to create a meaningful second chapter. You don't have to go through it now. Just know it's waiting for you whenever you're ready. And you'll find the link below. Now, the thought that confidence wasn't what moved us forward stayed with me, and it still does. Because once I began looking back over my own life, I noticed something I'd completely missed. Somewhere along the way, I forgot everything I knew and what life had already taught me. And I started to believe that if something felt uncomfortable, it must be wrong. I'm going in the wrong direction. I thought about that the first time I drove a car. I was nervous. I thought about my first day as a nurse. I was nervous. And then I thought about opening my counseling practice. I was nervous there too. And here I was, years later, sitting in front of a camera, sitting in front of my computer, still nervous. And that's when it hit me. Fear had never been the problem. It had been present at the beginning of every meaningful chapter of my life. It wasn't standing in my way. It had been walking beside me all along. And somehow I'd forgotten that. I started believing that if something felt uncomfortable, it must be wrong. But when I look back over my life, I realize I have never judged my best decision and how comfortable they felt. Here's the truth. Fear only knows one direction, backwards. It has one job, keep everything familiar. Keep everything the same, even if familiar is no longer where you're supposed to stay. And that realization changed something for me and changed something in me. So now, when I notice that knot in my stomach, I don't automatically assume something has gone wrong or I'm making a mistake. I wonder, am I standing at the edge of becoming someone I've never had to be before? A little while ago, I did something simple. I wasn't planning to share it. It was really just for me. I took out a piece of paper and draw one line straight down the middle. On one side, I wrote what fear says. On the other side, what I know is true. Fear had plenty to say. Things like you're too old, you don't know enough, people will judge you, someone else has already done it better, you're behind. I answered each one, not with positive thinking, just truth. Things like, I've learned difficult things before. I've started over in different areas before. I've survived harder seasons than this one. I've done things I once believed I couldn't do. When I was finished, I noticed something. The fear hadn't disappeared, but it no longer sounded like the voice of truth. It sounded like one frightened opinion. And that's what I've been learning all along. It's not that courageous people don't feel afraid, but they've stopped treating fear like the authority, and they've stopped asking it for permission to begin. So if you're standing at the edge of something right now, a dream, retirement, a dream of a new business, a dream you've quietly carried for years, and everything inside you feels uncertain, you don't need to wait until that fear disappears. Maybe you only need to recognize it for what it is, not a verdict, not a warning, but just the feeling that often shows up whenever life asks us to grow. Now, if today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to give you something that will help you take the next step. And before you spend another day wondering if you still have something meaningful to offer, I created something that I think will encourage you. It's a free guided workbook that will help you recognize the experience, the strengths, and value you may have overlooked for years, something you've taken for granted. Because sometimes the hardest person to see clearly, it's ourselves. And if you're ready to see yourself a little different, you'll find the link just below this video. And before I go, I'd like to leave you with one thought that's been sitting with me lately. Maybe your next chapter doesn't begin on the day you stop feeling afraid. Maybe it begins on the day you decide you still have something meaningful to offer and take that first step. So until next time, I'm Lorna, and I'll see you in the next video.